Utah for getting that travel day and then the practice. I feel like the guys were energy-wise.
They were fine. It was nobody laboring or anything like that. Guys seemed to be in a good spot.
Curious, when you look at just the 3 games, there's so many games that you could point to, but then you look at Luka didn't play the first 2 games, Dinwiddie wasn't there at all, Ayton didn't play the last game for you guys. How much stock do you take in the 3 regular season games when a lot has changed or things have changed since then?
I think it's hard to use those games as a research tool just because Luka was out, as you said, pre-trade, and they play a little bit differently without Porzingis. A lot more 5 out, a lot less, if any, bigs that post up. I mean, their smalls post up more than their bigs do. So the way they're playing is really fast, trying to get threes in transition, and you have to be able to guard the ball while relying on your team concepts to help with that. So to your point, you can't just throw those games away, but it is a different, seems like a different team, different season with the way they play now and the personnel they have now.
Yeah, in the Utah series, they had at one point, Luka was guarded. It was like, with Ayton, it's different in terms of him being a more offensive-minded and score more than Rudy. So how do you view that part of it where they could do that or they probably will do that and how you utilize Ayton?
Yeah, it's hard to speculate. You can forecast a few things just based on what they've done. We haven't seen that when we played them, even when Luka played and DA played, like we haven't seen that matchup. But they have done something that nobody else has done where they put Kleber on Chris, and they'll have another big in the paint. Al could be down there guarding the 5. So when you go to run a pick and roll, they just switch it. That could be something that we see. But our team dynamic is a little bit different than Utah's. So I think we just have to wait and see. And that's why going into the first game, you really have to rely on who you are as a team. And then once you get an idea in the first half, I think you can, maybe before, make the adjustments based on what you're seeing on the floor.
Just in terms of, in general, the way that DA's grown over the last few years, what have you seen in terms of his ability to kind of target those mismatches and punish them when they do go small like last year?
I think it's more the guys around him that are looking for him when a situation happens where small switches on to DA. I think we're much better at finding him as a team. Our first year, I'm not quite sure he was ready for that. And 2, we weren't ready. We didn't take advantage of it when teams would put a smaller guy on him. Now I think there's some synergy there. The guys who have the ball look for it, but then he's so much better at sealing and wanting the ball and being big. And he and JaVale and Biz, but in particular DA, he's gotten so much better in catch high, keep it high, where he catches the ball, he doesn't bring it down, he just catches it and he goes up with it. I think that allows for him to take advantage of those situations.
This is kind of a broad question, but when we talk about defending Luka Doncic, what are the things that come to mind as far as how you contain a guy like that?
Well, I mean, no one's done it where you've taken him out, but there's some team things you can do to try to limit his opportunities. You don't want to give him everything. He's a guy that can score on the levels, but you don't want to finish a game where he's got 12 assists, you know what I'm saying? And then he's got 4 or 5 threes, and then he's got 18 points in the paint. Like that doesn't serve you well at all. You try to make it tough on him where hopefully you can take out one of those categories and diminish it a little bit, and then you don't want to foul him. That allows for them to set their defense. The thing about Luka is he's in that category now of high-level guys that's seen every defense. And he's so doggone big and strong that he can take the punishment, but he also can see the other side of the floor. I mean, for a guy that size to be able to throw lob passes like that, you typically don't see that from a 6'6", 6'7" guy, maybe 6'8", I'm not quite sure. But he's got great pace. Once he gets to the lane, he's so strong. He's got that push off, and then he's under control. And, those are things you just, quite frankly, you just can't take those away. You just try to make it as tough as you can on them.
Monty, to follow up with something on Book, we all know the competitor he is, but in game 6, it really felt like he was picking his spots really well in terms of when to push with the hamstring. Just how happy were you with him sort of limiting it and not putting too much pressure on it, like you mentioned? With
I thought he was fine. Like when I talked to him, he was straight with me. He's like, "Coach, I'm fine. I feel strong." But when you watch the film, he did, find places where you saw he might go or he might, run full speed back in transition. It wasn't like he was cheating the game. He was just more efficient. And, he hadn't played in over a week, so that probably had a lot to do with it. But in the second half, I thought I saw more of an effort to just play, and we needed it. I mean, the shots that he hit, the one going right, where he pulled up, I'm like, that's textbook book. And then when he posted up Alvarado at the nail and just rose up and got into his shot, I'm like, he's starting to feel like himself. I thought in the first half we were a bit off and trying to balance it all out with him being back. And then the second half, we just kind of played the way that we typically play, scoring 60-plus points on the road in a closeout game. I thought was indicative of everybody was finding more balance with him being on the floor.
You know far better than me that it's not going to be Mikal stopping Luka. It's going to be you guys together stopping Luka. So with that in mind, just for Mikal and DeAndre specifically as a pair in those situations, how have you seen their chemistry evolve since you got here with how they help out each other in both ways?
No, not something I spend a lot of time. I mean, I think they both have grown. One, just with the experience. I mean, if you look at those two, they came in together. They played a lot of games together, and they typically are in pick and roll coverages together. And so there'll be times when we go through a scouting report, and then those two will spend some time within the scouting report or in between going over plays, and they'll be talking about, this could happen, whatever it is. And I encourage it. I think it's really good. When young players start to grow, they know what to say, as opposed to when they first come into the league, they don't know anything. And so they don't even know how to communicate. Those guys have been in a number of situations together, and they know what to communicate. I think that's a good thing.
The specific example that comes to mind for me, I don't know the technical term for it, but like once the screen comes from the next 2 to 3 seconds for how they handle the space, and share it, and then sometimes switch it. It's
a read. Yeah, I think that when you've been in it as many times as they have been in it, when to communicate, if you're going to switch, when you should switch, and then like applying it is somewhat of a skill that I think comes with experience. It's not always perfect, but Mikal has risen to this level of defensive player of the year status, but DA is the quarterback of the defense. And the guys are always telling him, like, whatever you say, we're going to do it. And I think that's given him ownership, especially in those pick and roll environments where the communication has to be like loud and early so that you can make a good decision at the right time.
Aiden was saying that you can't learn that from DeAndre Jordan. He was playing against DeAndre Jordan. Jordan was calling it out, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I see what he's doing. Let me pick that up a little bit." Where have you seen maybe the biggest growth, or when did you start seeing the growth in him calling out plays? And like, was it second season? Was it the first year, second year? When did you start noticing that?
It's like the archives of our program today. I don't know when. I don't know the time. I just know, like in the second year after, and really in the bubble, like we had that hiatus, and it was almost like a summer for the guys. They came back to the bubble and they knew the languages a bit better. And I think once guys understand the languages, then they know what to say. I think that helped us. We couldn't have gone 8-0 without him playing the kind of defense that we needed to play, but also being able to communicate it to the team. I think that's something that a lot of young guys probably get too much criticism for is, oh, they're not talking enough. And a lot of times young guys don't know what to say. They're learning it all. And we came in with, more terms than a dictionary, and they're, trying to figure it all out. And maybe we stripped it down some so they could learn it. That was probably when you started to see the growth as far as communicating on defense and being the anchor that we think he can be for a long time.
Coach, does it ever make you think about controlling the pace, staying up tempo in this upcoming series, and basically keeping the half-court sets balanced out for Devin to not possibly re-injure his hamstring, maybe?
Never crossed my mind. We just don't forecast injuries. We can't change our style of play with that kind of thinking. I do understand the question, but it's just not something that is on the docket right now. We just, we wouldn't put him out there if we felt like he was going to re-injure himself. So I think we have a style of play, and his ramp up and his build up was based on not just getting healthy, but it was based on getting back so he could play the way that we typically play. And so he came out of the game clean, and to be able to have these days of rest and getting work in today, I think will help him be even stronger come game one.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you guys.